How have you been, Miss Shin? Okay? Okay? I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Let's see what you got. Which case are we talking about tonight?
Beyond the necessities of food, clothing, and shelter, Danny Amos will tell you the homeless need something more: legal advice. Amos is a lawyer, volunteering his time to provide a service not often considered when we think about the homeless.
I have to motion to amend the judgment. In the meantime, I don't have a attorney. I don't have money to hire the attorney.
Hong Shin immigrated from Korea some 3 decades ago. She's in her late 50s, early 60s.
Because I lost everything.
She fights through tears and broken English to try and explain her legal situation to Amos.
I really need this help. Homeless because I borrowed a private loan and paid all the interest and interest.
I'm CNN's Jim Roop, and we are at the corner of Sycamore and Romaine in West Hollywood. Here, far from the tourist attractions and movie studios, lives one of Greater LA's largest homeless populations. Every Wednesday evening, the Greater West Hollywood Food Coalition pulls up in a truck to feed the people here. They bring doctors, nurses, and medical students from UCLA who volunteer to give free health care from a mobile clinic. Next to the mobile clinic truck on the sidewalk is a small table and 2 rusted folding chairs. It's where we find Danny Amos helping folks like Pong Shin.
It's the whole my life I said was all thrown away.
She has to win this.
But I need help.
It's hard to tell with what you have, what the status of this case is.
Mrs. Shin's real estate problem is a unique case. Amos says what he mostly gets here are problems that have what he calls a criminal overtone.
They're infractions, they're misdemeanors. They're things like guys urinating in public, or sleeping on a bench where they shouldn't be, or getting onto the subway without buying a ticket. These folks wind up in those circumstances over and over again. And then the problem becomes is they get cited, they get a ticket, and then they forget to go to the hearings. And so then a warrant is issued for them. And it happens over and over and over again, so they get deeper and deeper into a hole.
Amos brings with him a laptop computer and a personal wireless network card. Many of his clients are reluctant to identify themselves, but he says if he can get someone to give him their name, he can look up tickets, warrants, and the like, and it's the start for real legal help.
Now, for the more severe cases where somebody might come out and say they have a dozen infractions and warrants out for them, as long as they're nonviolent and they're not drug-related, we can get them into a program that's called homeless court.
This is where a superior court judge takes a look at homeless cases. Amos says in many cases the judge will dismiss all charges, fines, and warrants, and to Amos, that spells success.
Now you have a guy who feels like he's got some hope in his life and he can go out and get a job, because when the employer runs his name through the system, it doesn't show up that he's got all these outstanding warrants and fines and everything else.
There are many organizations across the country that provide legal assistance for the homeless. Danny Amos's story, however, is more than just about a lawyer volunteering his time outside his regular practice. The less fortunate have become his practice. Amos is 53, married with 3 adult children. For more than 25 years, he worked in a law firm. And he lived in a home in a nice neighborhood, but something was missing. He'd become more active in his church, St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church in Westwood. It's only a few miles away from this seedy part of town, but economically it's worlds apart. He began coming out here as a church volunteer in its Feeding the Homeless program. He says he talked with the people he was feeding and he heard their stories. He realized there were needs beyond the meal. Many had legal issues that haunted them and prevented them from moving forward with their lives. He looked at his very comfortable life, his loving wife and family, his successful law practice. Then he knew what was missing.
I couldn't practice law like that and do this program with the church. And so I stopped practicing law. I started this company, Higher Legal, for a higher purpose, because A, that's where my life was taking me, to a higher place. And I figured I could use my 25 years of experience to make sure people didn't get ripped off by the sleazy plaintiff's lawyers that everybody knows about.
And so Danny started Hire Legal, a lawyer referral service that matches high-priced lawyers who are willing to work pro bono or on contingency with people who have very little means or nothing at all.
The great thing about the contingency fee arrangement, which is unique to this country, is the poorest man can have the very best lawyer because it's not an hourly arrangement. It's a contingency. So the person takes your case, and when the case is over, they take a percentage of it. The problem is finding the best lawyer.
If he finds the best lawyer for someone, and if that case is successful, Amos gets a fee from the referred lawyer. Sounds simple enough, but getting started was slow. Very slow.
It's been a real struggle. I mean, we wound up selling our house and selling our car, and I got to say, it's been a real struggle. But you know what? It's been a great journey, too.
Now he and his wife live in a modest condo. He says he makes a lot less money, but he's a whole lot happier.
Because it's taught me gratitude. It's taught me that you can't take anything for granted, and I'm sure that in my life I've done that. And coming out here to Sycamore and Romaine to serve these people, boy, I mean, that's a wonderful slap in the face. So you realize, how blessed am I to be someone who's got a job and a family and a place to sleep and a warm bed tonight. And these people who are all leaving here now tonight, they're all going to this corner and that corner and behind that bus and this bench.
The homeless problem is immense. He knows he can't solve the larger problem, but he can help. So every Wednesday night, Amos sets up his folding table and chairs at the corner of Sycamore and Romaine in West Hollywood, past the food and medical trucks, and he tries. On this Wednesday night, he's putting a plan together for Mrs. Shin.
And then we'll try to draft this motion for you. Do you have one of these I can take so that I can have the case number?
Yeah.
Just let me have one of them.
I have extra.
You have an extra copy of the transcript. That's even better.
Yep.
Amos says while he has to make a living, he's really not in it for the money. He's in it, well, for people like Mrs. Shin.
Okay, Miss Shin, how you been other than your lawsuits? You hanging in there?
I am, yes.
One day at a time?
Yes, but it was very hard.
Mrs. Shin then grabs the 4 plastic grocery bags full of probably everything she has and leaves. Amos can only hope that she'll be back next week. There's no other way to get a hold of her. Jim Roop, CNN.